Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and today I am joined by former Detroit Tiger, currently in the Minnesota Twins system. I got Blaine Hardy. Blaine, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I am doing well. Number 65, hanging out with me on my podcast, man. This is so cool, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for those of you that don't know, all my horror fans, I am also a huge baseball fan, homegrown Tigers fan. Got to watch Blaine for a couple years, go from starter to middle relief and back, and got bounced around a little bit. But what are you going to be doing this offseason to kind of get yourself ready for next year?
Ultimately, for me, it's making sure my arm's healthy. I ended up going through surgery. I know online it says I had Tommy John, but the funny thing is it wasn't actually Tommy John. It's ultimately the light version of Tommy John. I basically had an internal brace added to my ligament, and then I also had my flexor tendon repaired, and the rehab time's anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So it actually puts me right on par for being ready for spring training. So it actually worked out perfectly, especially with the whole COVID situation. So it allowed me to spend time with the family, be home for the birth of my second child, Archie, and yeah, I'll just basically be working out in my garage and throwing into a net. And when the time comes, I'll probably be heading to Florida, Arizona, depending on wherever I end up. So,
yeah. And congratulations on the newborn as well. Congratulations to you and Nikki. How old is Archie now?
Archie is just over a month. I actually think he's 5 weeks. Yeah, he's actually 5 weeks today. So.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. Man, I just got to tell you, this is so awesome for me. As a huge fan of the sport. And for those of you who don't know, before we started recording, I just had a really long conversation with Blaine. It was a nice baseball conversation. And I'm sorry if you don't want me to share the story, Blaine, but I'm gonna, because it speaks to your character. Blaine had a fan a couple hours away. Got a hold of Blaine through the internet, asked him for an autograph. Blaine not only gave him an autograph on a baseball, but he drove it to the fan. So that shows you the character of the guy I have right here. And, you know, you hear about these stories all the time, and sometimes it gets overstated, but that you just made a fan for life. And he has a story that he can not only tell his friends and his family, but his kids. And, you know, the time that a Major League Baseball player drove to his house to give him a baseball, man. So as a father and as a human being, thank you for the person that you are. That's a really cool story. And I am so proud of the fact that I get to share it with people.
Oh, absolutely. You know, anything to make a person's day, a fan's day, it just, you know, it brightens my day. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, basically just being a normal human being, it can brighten your day, everyone's day around you, and just make life just that much easier to live. So.
And I can tell you right now, you're brightening my day right now, man. This is so cool. But we are here to talk about the first horror movie that you ever watched. And your first horror movie was?
The Ring.
The Ring. Man, this is a movie that I will always remember. And a funny story I want to tell. I was in probably junior high when this came out. And I went to see it with a girl on our first date. And the movie theater was packed. And I was sitting next to this girl. And then there was another girl sitting next to me that we didn't know. And she was with all her girlfriends. And every time something scary happened, this girl that was next to me on the other side would reach over and grab me. So I was just like in an awkward situation of, I don't know her. I swear to God, I don't know what's going on here. But how old were you the first time that you seen The Ring?
Actually about the same age, about junior high. I think I didn't watch it until it came out on DVD. Personally, I hate watching horror films, mainly just because I don't like knowing something's about to happen, because the music usually picks up, or there's some ominous tones being slowly increased in volume, and it's just the anticipation of, okay, what is going to scare the living crap out of me this time. And like my experience was, we had it on DVD, or not me, but one of my friends did, and we ended up staying up past our bedtime to go watch it. And of course, like halfway through it, we end up basically just, I don't know if we screamed, but like obviously there was like a yell of some sort. And his father came down and said, "What are you guys doing up past your bedtime?" And he saw what we were watching and goes, "Go ahead." Like, good luck sleeping tonight, because I already know that you're going to be looking around every corner and in every closet and underneath every bed. Like, and it was one of those things where it probably took me, I would say, at least a few days to get back to a normal sleep pattern, just because, when you watch movies like that, especially when it's like your first horror film, it really just, it kind of alters reality to an extent to where you're thinking, okay, what if it's actually possible for this kind of stuff to happen? And now being older, and Nikki loves horror films, so we watch them occasionally, but she knows that she can't overstep the amount of horror films that we watch. So, and especially now that we have kids, it kind of makes it easier for me to say, oh no, we probably shouldn't watch that. We don't want the kids to be scared for a couple weeks. So
the kids to be scared.
Yeah, exactly.
So which scene from The Ring do you think, if you can remember, which scene do you think affected you the most?
Probably the well scene. I actually think there was probably a few well scenes, but just the creepy girl crawling out of that well, just no. Like it's like one of the most remembered scenes in my mind of that movie. And I mean, really any scene where you see that creepy girl, like now trying to reflect back on it, I don't know. I don't like thinking about it.
I'm digging up old bones here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we talked about which scene affected you the most. Now, there's quite a bit of kills in this movie. Was there a certain kill that affected you more than the other ones?
Pretty much all of them, to tell you the truth. Anytime there's this little creepy demonic girl, whatever you want to describe her as, and you look at her, you go, no, it's just a little girl. Like, she's not gonna do any harm. But yeah, that's not how horror films work. Usually it's the innocent tiny little creatures, possessions. It just, those are worse, because it just adds to the amount of things that could possibly kill you. And obviously it's not reality, but when you watch a movie like that, it sometimes does.
It still burrows in the brain.
Yeah. And I know there's times where we'll watch a horror movie, even at my age now, and you'll end up sleeping in your bed and you'll hear a little creak. You're like, what was that? Like, is there someone breaking into my house, or is there an animal trying to get into the warm house? Living in Minnesota, that actually happens more often than you think. But usually it's just a little pest, like a little mouse or a rat, or I don't actually think there's rats here, but regardless, it makes everything a little bit more creepy in your life. So.
And see, that's the part I love about it. I love the overactive imagination part of it. One death from that movie I think really got me is when they're already at the funeral, and the mom's like, I saw her face. And then it cuts to the girl in the closet, and her face is all messed up as her head falls. Like, that one really got me. Like, in the theater, it had that really loud noise right at that part too. So you're just like, oh, right when it happens. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know you're not big.
I actually don't know if I've ever seen a horror film in a movie theater. And I think there's that aspect of, you have no control over the volume, can't mute it. So I think I'll probably stay in the warmth of my house with the remote ready to be muted. So.
Right. Well, I know you're not a huge fan of horror movies, but I do want to go scream on you here. What's your favorite scary movie, Blaine? If you had to choose a favorite horror movie, what would you say your favorite horror movie is?
That's a difficult one. And I only say that because there's so many different genres. There's definitely the ones where it's jump in your seat, and then there's the more calm ones where I think it really actually kind of comes down to the producer, the director, and how they actually go about creating a scary movie. I don't actually think I can put my finger on a specific one, but the scary movies that are a little bit more mild, and the Scream ones are actually great because there's a comedic aspect to it, to where you still enjoy watching it, knowing full well that you're going to have to jump in your seat at some point.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden you'll get like a little relief with some comedic aspects to it. And like Screams are actually probably a good example of that, because it's like, oh my God. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Okay. Back to normal, and then jump in your seat again. It's kind of like the roller coaster of emotions. Whereas like there was no aspect of that with The Ring, because it's just straight like, okay, I'm going to be grabbing the armrests like intensely for an hour and a half. So
yeah, The Ring is just a constant face punch over and over again.
Yep,
and it's funny to say Scream, because Scream is my favorite horror franchise of all time. When you put all the movies together, I think Scream is probably the most solid horror franchise of all time. I think it beats out Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, because those got so bad towards the end on a couple of them. But to me, Scream is an absolute perfect franchise. And I always end these, my friend, with the same question. It's a skull count. So we're ranking on a scale of 0 to 5. How much The Ring affected you, I guess. 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. What is your ranking of The Ring?
I would actually put it probably at a 4 with, well, it depends on if the scale is how much it affected your perception of horror films. I don't like horror films, and I would say The Ring is probably the reason for that. So actually 4.5, because I still watch them. So if it was a 5, I probably would never watch a scary movie ever again. So
right.
But yeah, no, like there's some really interesting movies out there. One that actually just popped up in my head, I can't remember. It was called House of Wax. That one kind of just makes you wonder, because that's more of a movie that falls into a category of, okay, this actually could happen. Scream's the same way, to where, all it takes is a psycho to end up being in your town or a place you travel. And then you add a movie like The Ring into the mix, and it allows you to say, okay, like that's not going to happen. Maybe it could. No, it can't happen. So like, but yeah, and that's why I do, to an extent, enjoy the movies where they allow you to think like, okay, this is actually a possibility. Unlikely I'll ever experience it in my life, but
it's still possible.
It's still possible.
So don't go anywhere, Blaine. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, thank you so much for joining us on this little journey we just had. Make sure you're following Blaine. I got his social media accounts down here. Blaine, thank you so much. Everybody else, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.